10 random magic cards rated, day number 213 in the chronology. Let's see what the first card is today. It's Night Whirl Hermit from Bloomborough, and only Bloomborough, as you might imagine. This is 3 mana, 2 and a blue for a 1/4 rat rogue with vigilance and threshold. As long as there are 7 or more cards in your yard, this guy gets +1/+0 and cannot be blocked. So, you got 3 mana, 2/4 vigilance, unblockable guy. So that means he gets in for combat damage and still blocks with a big old booty. All right. I've always kind of liked this guy, like since the first time I saw him. Looks kind of like a draft all-star, and he may have very well been in Bloomborough, but I don't know. I love unblockable dudes. I really do. So I kind of have a special place in my heart for this guy. Not standard or really even commander playable or anything like that. I just think he's a cool guy. He's my brother. So I'll give him a 3.3, which is a higher score than I really should give it. But I like unblockable dudes, man. Next is Cinderglade. We have done these before. Whenever it enters the battlefield, it enters tapped, unless you control 2 or more basic lands. These are very, very good duels. Even without that many basic lands in your deck, I think these are more than fine. I really do. But Fortified Village is next. We've also done these. I feel like we've done most dual lands at this point. This is the one where it enters and you have to reveal a forest or plains. If you don't, ETB's tapped. These are technically, in my opinion, in some cases better than the ones we just looked at. But the thing has to be in your hand, which is a little bit harder. These are much better in the early game than they are in the late game, right? So they still command a pretty low price tag, which I think you want to get your hands on a couple, man. These are actually pretty decent dual lands. I think we've done these before, but now I can't remember if we have. So I feel like we did like the red-green one, but if we haven't, then I'm going to give these a 7. A solid 7. Let's go 6.9. These are very good duels. And also, duels are very good. So there's that. We'll move on to Compost here from Urza's Destiny. Printed a couple other times and was in a World Championship deck. Has also been a secret lair drop. Pretty cool card. 2 mana, 1 and a green for an enchantment. Whenever a black card is put into one of your opponent's graveyards, you may draw a card. How crazy is that? How insane is that card? This is only $1 from Urza's Destiny. That's a pretty good price. If you want it from the secret lair drop, it's less than $4. And it looks pretty cool there. But I just get the Urza's Destiny one. I might actually order this. Order Compost. I feel like I haven't put a card on the order list in a while. This is about $1. Let's just say $1. A little bit more, but you can probably get it for $1. I'd like to get a damaged version for like 70 cents. That'd be good. But either way, yeah. Note that it's whenever it's put in your graveyard or opponent's graveyard from anywhere at all. So if they just cast a removal spell, if they cast a Dark Ritual to get some mana, you draw a card. It's not just once a turn like a modern card, not a nowadays card. You just draw a billion cards. And like on a commander table, I feel like at least 1, if not 2 people are probably playing swamps in their deck in some capacity or another, like a lot of the time. So yeah, you're going to draw some cards off Compost. Guaranteed, dude. This card, even though it's like a color hosing specific kind of card, I tend to weight blue and black color hosers a little bit higher than most color hosers, because those are colors you will find at most commander tables. And in this case, just 2 mana for this kind of must-kill engine, but like their deck, apart from like Feed the Swarm and like 1 or 2 other cards that have ever been printed in black, they just really don't have a whole lot of options for taking this thing out, right? So it's kind of at its mercy, and you're drawing like so many cards, man. So I'm going to give this like a 7, and the only reason I'm holding its score back from anything higher than that is because it's a very color specific card. But I still think that this is a ridiculous card draw engine on like most tables. So I'd give it a shot if you haven't yet. Just easy to get to, just $1, and you get to play with an old school card. Let's go a little bit. Let's go, dude. Next is Absolute Grace, another card from an Urza's block, this time only ever printed in Urza's Saga. Absolute Grace is 2 mana, 1 and a white for an enchantment. All creatures gain protection from black. So apparently every card in Urza's block was, a color hoser against black. It's kind of weird. All creatures having pro black is nuts. It's really, again, on certain tables, that's absolutely wild, man. Especially if you get it down like when they're tapped out or they don't have a removal spell in their hand, like just all their removal spells are dead against you for the rest of the game. That's really, really cool. I'm going to give this a 6.4. And again, the only reason I'm not rating it higher is because it's a color hoser specific to black. But even though this isn't as good as like draw a card when they cast any spell ever, you know what I mean? This is still all your dudes can't be killed by any of their spells for the rest of the game. And I think if you can get this down clean, you probably do all right on some tables. So I'm still going to give this a relatively high score. That's a kind of a crazy text box. But we'll move on to, it's Griffin Guide from Time Spiral originally. This is 3 mana, 2 and a white for an R that enchants a creature. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and has flying. Whenever enchanted creature is put into a graveyard, put a 2/2 white Griffin creature token with flying into play. So we actually played this back in the day. I have played this in competitive constructed decks. Not to say everyone did, but a lot of people tried this card out. It was an all-star in its draft environment. I love Time Spiral Limited so much. Griffin Guide was surprisingly decent in that limited environment, but even in standard decks, I played this card from time to time. +2/+2 and flying for 3 mana sounds like kind of a raw deal, but it's not that bad, really. You know, your creature, it's kind of like a Maul of the Skyclaves. Your creature gets a relatively decent PT bonus, and flying is a great evasive ability. But when the creature does die, which it is prioritized to do now, you know, they really want to get rid of that like 5/5 flyer you got over there, then you get a 2/2 flyer. So you still have something that can fly over for damage. I actually really like this card a good bit, and I want to give it the honorary 5 because I haven't done that in a couple of days, but I think I'm going to rate it fairly here and give it a 3.9 because I'm not sure that it's great. I'm not sure it ever really was, but it's a card that I have some personal ties to. I like it. We'll move on to Stromgall Crusader from Cold Snap here. Also reprinted on the list, but those are the only 2 printings. 2 black mana for a 2/1 zombie knight with protection from white. It's protection from a color day. You can pay a black mana to have it gain flying until end of turn. You can pay 2 black mana to give it +1/+0 till end of turn. So this is supposed to remind you of, you know, Order of the Ebon Hand and Order of Letber, and also the 2 from Ice Age, because there were versions of those same cards from Ice Age, just named different things. But in any case, Crusader is a great take on those cards. First of all, just a 2/1 pro white is kind of getting there already, you know, like it's not White Knight, it's not Black Knight, you know, but it's still a 2 mana, 2 power pro white guy. With the right creature type, zombie and knight. He also looks very cool. He looks so like a black Clydesdale with wings, like a Clydesdale Pegasus. It's insane. That's so insane. He's got the red eyes and the suit of armor and the axe. Like, he looks cool. He looks the part, but also being able to, you know, pump him has always been good on these guys. You know, an underrated ability on guys like this because they get through for 3-4 damage. Sometimes they're the only creature on your side of the table, but your opponent can't kill it and they can't block it. So you just deal so much damage with it. Just these are always good creatures, and it was cool to see this guy as like a take on them back in Cold Snap, which was, God, like 18 years ago now. But at one point, this was new to me, and I was like, oh, I get your references. I still kind of feel that way when I see the card. I'm going to give this a 5. I'm going to give this the honorary 5 of the day, I think, even though I don't know that I have to give it an honorary 5. This is mostly for, again, casual commander. You guys know that, and I don't think this is getting played in any commander decks, but in terms of like just card design and in a vacuum, how strong a card is, I think this is like right at the power level I'm looking for on average in a Magic card nowadays. You know, like somewhat playable. But next is Sulphur Springs, another Pain Land. We got 2 Pain Lands in the last day or two. I like this 5th edition art with the palm trees and the volcanoes. Don't sleep on this 5th edition art, but we all got to give it up for the Sulphur Springs art by Phil Folio. This little demon sitting in here, just enjoying a little bubble. You know, it's one of my favorite arts on any dual land of all time. Actually, it's one of my favorite arts on any Magic card of all time. I love this thing. But we'll move on to Sheltering Word from Avacyn Restored. 2 mana, 1 and a green for an instant. Target creature you control gains hexproof till end of turn, and you gain life equal to that creature's toughness. So a pretty normal save a guy effect here. You really want these to cost 1 mana in green, so do have to kind of hit it for that a little bit. But I guess if you're trying to trigger life gain effects, this is a pretty good way of saving a creature. So I don't hate it, but I'm just going to give it a 3.8 for now. I think there's way better ways to save your guys. Yockle Mortar is up next from Cold Snap. It's Cold Snap Day, everybody. This is also printed on the list once, but that's it. 7 mana, 4 and 3 blue for a 12/12 Leviathan with Trample. It comes into play tapped, and when it comes into play, sacrifice it unless you sacrifice 5 lands. It also doesn't untap during your untap step. Whenever you play an island, you can untap Yockle Mortar. Okay. 7 mana is too much. But I love Leviathans, dude. I love any reference to Leviathans. Matter of fact, the old art on like the Dark Leviathan, the Leviathan from the Dark, is also one of my favorite arts of all time. It's a perfect, like, perfect representation of perspective and like how scary a card can look, like a card can make you sort of have this sense of dread because of the scale involved in the situation. And Yakomortar's not necessarily doing that in its art, but it is really cool. It's like an orca Leviathan thing. I feel like it's like a bunch of killer whales put together or something. It's just pretty cool art direction on it, but either way, a 12/12 trample. I can pay 7 mana for that, or I can pay 1 mana for that. It's called Phyrexian Dreadnought or whatever. But still, sacking 5 lands is bad unless you want to do that. And I guess there's reasons you might want to do that. Being able to just untap it when you play an island is pretty easy. I think that's a fairly easy thing to be able to do, but I say that now. I feel like by the time you get to the 7 mana you need to pay for Yakomortar, you might not have that many cards in your hand, and so like you're just looking to draw an island the next couple of turns, which, you may or may not do. So altogether, the card is kind of just a meme, it's just kind of a reference to a card that was already like kind of a meme. Like, like Leviathan and Polar Kraken, like these are memes. So I'm not too sure it was ever very good, but it is a cool card. I'll give it a 3.6. We'll say. It's a 12/12 trample. So we'll look at Verdant Crescendo from Kaladesh next. Only ever Kaladesh, by the way. This is 4 mana, 3 and a green for a sorcery. Search your library for a basic land, put it on the battlefield tapped. Search your library and graveyard for a card named Nissa, Nature's Artisan. Reveal it, put it in your hand, shuffle your library. So this is one of those that goes with the bad planeswalkers. If you want a Nissa, Nature's Artisan, it's 6 mana for a 5 loyalty planeswalker, +3 to gain 3 life. That's, wow, +3, really. -4, reveal the top 2 cards of your library. All land cards from among them go onto the battlefield, the rest into your hand. And for -12, creatures you control get +5/+5 and gain trample until end of turn. Okay, so it does take 3 turns to get to the ultimate on this, and you can't even doubling season it. They made sure of that. You might whiff on the -4, which is horrible. This card's actually pretty bad. This card is in fact very bad, but so is Verdant Crescendo, in a way. It only puts 1 land into play for 4 mana, which is really just a terrible rate. But I guess the fact that it puts a planeswalker in your hand is okay. But the planeswalker in question is kind of fishy. Not a super great planeswalker. So I'm just gonna give this a 3.4. And kind of move on to the final card of the day here. It's going to be Blood Aspirant from Theros Beyond Death. Blood Aspirant is 2 mana, 1 and a red for a 1/1 Satyr Berserker. Whenever you sacrifice a permanent, put a +1/+1 counter on Aspirant. You can also pay 2 mana, it's 1 and a red, tap it, sack a creature or enchantment to have Aspirant deal 1 damage to a creature. And that creature can't block this turn, which is the cool part of that ability, actually. It's not necessarily the 1 damage, but if you want to build your own Orcish Bowmasters, I guess you could. This guy's just an Orcish Bowmaster. He's not, but still. I really like this first line of text an awful lot because we be sacking permanents, especially like treasure tokens and stuff. Be sacking those all the time, and they take nothing to sacrifice. So, like, Blood Aspirant could get pretty big in a game of Commander, right? And still provide other value for you. Altogether, I've always liked this card. It's never quite been playable anywhere, but I've always liked the card. So, he is in Commander Masters. That's something, right? I guess somebody's playing him in Commander. But altogether, I'm going to give this a very friendly 4.1. And kind of leave it at that, because I'm not sure it deserves that, but that first line of text is very attractive to me on a personal level. And so is he. I like his beard. But anyway, that's all for today, everybody. I'll see you bright and early tomorrow. Bye.